a young man that passed away here. Again, I've never seen the helpful, never seen the letters, never seen what this community has done for Mr. DeKuiper's name. It's been unbelievably phenomenal. We do not sit here at all. We do not recognize it. We recognize it. On behalf of my client, we recognize what he did that day. On behalf of my client, I want to tell everybody for the record that this wasn't a situation that I had, a crash in Monroe County where an elderly lady was drinking all day, gets in her car, guns it, goes into this boat club, goes through the facility, kills 3 kids, kills 2 kids and injures seriously a child. And it's a case that made the community down there extremely mad, just like this community, rightfully so. But we don't have a person here that had alcohol in the system. We do not have a person here that had substance abuse, anything in his system. We have, believe it or not, they were playing baseball. And he didn't have anything in his system, and I think that bodes well for him. I understand Mom and Dad that you should have been paying attention. You should have been looking. You shouldn't have passed where he passed. A life was lost. Exactly, they're exactly right. Mr. Schram is never going to deny that, or his family, or his friends. I don't know what you're going to do at sentencing, Judge. I have no idea what's on your mind. I know that he is supposed to get another surgery, but how that plays into your thought process in any way, we're going to find out. But I wanted to speak and finish speaking because I think my client has some things he would like to tell the court. I want to thank the court. I want to thank everybody that has been unbelievably involved in this case. I have never seen it. And in Sam's name, and I know his mom and dad don't care what I say, but in Sam's name, you're done. I will tell you that.
Thank you. Mr. Schram, you're not required to make a statement, sir, but if you want to, now would be that time. And it looks like you're going to read something, which is perfectly fine, sir. Take your time if you want to read it. The only reason I mention it is we tend to speed up when we read. Ms. James is here as our stenographer today, and she has an amazing skill. She types in shorthand, and that's what produces the transcripts. So it's the record of everything that is said. So I just need you to speak loudly enough and go slowly enough so that she can get it down so that we have an accurate. Okay? Go right ahead.
I want to start off by saying that I am deeply sorry for the DeKuiper family, Samantha and her family, the LDU community, and everybody that has been so blessed to have had somebody so great as Sam in their lives. I clearly see Sam had a huge impact on his community, and he was a very special individual. I never intended to hurt, I never intended any harm, and it pains me so deeply to see how much I have hurt so many people in and out of my life. I have wanted to reach out ever since I first found out what happened and check on Sam's family to express my condolences and to apologize. It has been very hard for me to sit back and remain quiet. That is not who I am. I'm a caring individual who only ever wants to help others, seeing people in pain, and not being able to help. Very hard for me. I have lost tons of sleep and I cried. I cried an extreme amount. And not for me, but for the people who whose lives have forever changed because of my misjudgment. I have continuously prayed for Sam, his family, friends, and his community. I often ask why. I often ask why did it have to be Sam who lost his life that day? And not me. I will forever feel the guilt for what happened. It makes me sick and weighs heavily on me every day. I may not be from this community or get to see firsthand the impact Sam's life made on the people in his community on a daily basis or see all the great things the community is doing to honor him. I know in my heart that you guys will never stop honoring the great man that he was, and I will never forget what my actions have caused. I felt like I've been in my own mental prison ever since the day that I was told what happened on May 3rd. That my misjudgment took Samuel Lee DeKuiper's life. My life has been halted ever since that day. I will forever deal with the constant physical pain as well as emotional pain because of my injuries from that day and the guilt of that caused. I have undergone 7 very invasive surgeries with another one to come and have been bedridden for a large portion of the last year. But it does not compare to the loss of Sam and what happened to him. I have never recovered enough to walk or stand for an extended period of time to resume anything I was doing prior to the accident because my femur has not healed and still remains separated entirely towards the middle of my bone. I continue to feel the guilt of my actions even further past Sam with everyday conversations or the time I get to be with my friends in person. My actions have forever altered their lives as well, and every time I'm around them, I deal with the guilt of what I have done to them as well. Whenever I hear my family or my friends' family and friends discuss what they remember from the day they first found out about the accident, or even discuss the care that they gave my friends while they were unable to care for themselves, it makes me very emotional. There's never a time I get a break from thinking about all the pain that I caused. I hate that I'm responsible for the pain I have inflicted on not only my family and friends, along with all of their loved ones, but especially the pain I have inflicted on Sam's family, friends, and community. I am sorry to everybody that has been affected by my error and judgment. The injuries and scars I have serve as a constant reminder to me of how serious my mistake was. I know I am fortunate to have survived this accident, and I wish that could have been the same for Sam. My parents, well, no parent should ever outlive their children. I have always stood firm on that, and my heart has always ached for the parents I've read about losing their children too soon. I also know that siblings are a special gift. I know that because of my sister, I see the pain that this has caused my sister. Almost losing her only brother And I could not imagine I cannot imagine the pain that Cassidy has gone through. I also know how special it is to meet your soulmate at such an early age. I met my wife the very first day of high school, and seeing the pain I put her through has been so terribly hard. I first learned that Sam and Samantha shared that similar story. It broke me even further. This accident has weighed heavily on me ever since it happened, and I have learned so much from it. I have learned that you can never take your life for granted, that mistakes can cause so much pain, that automobiles are extremely dangerous. Do not rush through life because anything can happen in the blink of an eye, and always cherish every memory you have with your loved ones while you can. I have also learned with driving not to ever take a chance of passing in an area that you're unfamiliar with. I thought it was safe. I could not see anything that made me feel like it was unsafe. I replay it constantly in my head, and I don't understand how I did not see Sam's field goal that day. I thought I was into the passing zone. I found out since that I was not, and that I was too early. I hope one day when I'm healed, I can serve my community as Sam did. Again, I'm so incredibly sorry to everybody I have hurt. I wish I could do anything to take it all away and bring Sam back. I'm sorry.
Thank you. I know we have a number of individuals slated. I'm not sure who wants to go first. Those folks are going to present written impact statements. There are 5 individuals that we decided on. You can come around this way by Agent Net. There's an opening there, or that way's fine, sir, for you because you're over there. If you want to come to the podium, sir, and then feel free to set anything down there that you need to. Obviously, you were able to hear the comment that I made relative to reading something. I do have it there. But if you could just start off by telling us your name.
My name is Stan Eldridge.
Go right ahead, sir.
Well, first, I'd like to thank yourself, Your Honor, and the prosecutor for allowing me this opportunity to speak today on behalf of my friend Sam DeKuiper. Sam was one of my former collegiate baseball players at Lawrence Tech University, where I'm the head baseball coach. I'm also a former law enforcement officer who unfortunately specialized in these kind of reconstruction accidents, so I empathize with everybody here today. It's never easy, and I've said many of these. But I stand here today not only representing myself, but the several dozen former players who are not only teammates of Sam's, but in many cases, very close friends, and not unlike a brother to him. On May 3rd, in 2024, the lives of not only Sam's family, his fiance, her family, but also the lives of myself, our other coaches, and most importantly, the several dozen former teammates that Sam had were instantly changed. At roughly 5:30 p.m. on that May 3rd afternoon, I received a phone call from a very clearly distraught Brenda DeKuiper, informing me that Sam had been killed in a traffic crash. Our conversation was short, but in that very instance, she wanted to make sure that I was informed so that in turn I could immediately inform Sam's former teammates, as she was extremely concerned for their well-being in her most traumatic moment. She was thinking of others. I did in turn notify those young men. We gathered together on our campus. I advised our university, and we brought in the psychologist for the university to sit as I had to deliver that devastating news to those young men. I did learn that day in talking with several of Sam's friends that Sam was en route to our campus to celebrate their graduation, which was to occur the following day. That was a small but simple act that clearly defined who Sam DeKuiper was. He lived his life to serve his family, his community, and his friends, and served as what I think all of us need to look at as the epitome of a servant leader. As you can imagine, that day, the reaction of those young men was shock that such an incident had occurred, disbelief that one of their friends, their brothers, was involved, and the anger they had at that moment that comes with losing somebody so unexpectedly as happened to Sam. Once we began to learn of the crash details over the next several days, weeks, and months, the hopes of those young men and their prayers were that our criminal justice system would act and speak on behalf of victims who could not speak for themselves. With my background, I was the sounding board for many of those conversations in the morning, the afternoon, and the evenings. In the interim, over the preceding months, I've watched these young men have moments where they simply break down, cry, many times inconsolable as they think of Sam. We have several who now have increased anxiety when we travel. This past season, as we were in vans or buses, that anxiety manifested itself in many ways for fear that the simple travel on a roadway would lead them or others close to them to be a victim of a similar crash. Again, I've had many discussions with these young men, and we have talked over the year and tried to make some sense of what occurred, and I think we'll continue to do that for many days and years ahead. They struggle to find ways to express their grief, their disbelief, their anger. It's changed them in many ways, certainly not for the positive. They worry about becoming close to others moving forward for the fear of experiencing that same type of loss again. I know you have many speakers this afternoon, Your Honor. I listened to your comments. I've sat in these courtrooms. Our only request as Sam's coaches, fellow teammates, friends, and the university community is that the justice system and yourself, as you analyze a proper sentence, will look to that point system and adjudicate it appropriately on Sam's behalf. Thank you.
Start off, please, by just telling me your name.
My name is Schram.
You get a, thank you. Hang on one second, I'm just gonna get a box of tissue. And then, you heard my comments relative to reading things, and it's not chastising instruction to anybody. I just want to make sure that it's on the record, okay? So you just make sure you go slowly enough so that Ms. James can get it. All right.
First off, thank you, Your Honor, for letting me speak today. As I said, my name is Samantha Schram. I was Sam's girlfriend. We were together for almost 6 years, and we're high school sweethearts. May 3rd started off as a beautiful Friday. Sam was planning to drive downstate and support his friends and teammates at their college graduation. He was so excited to see his friends graduate and celebrate their bright futures ahead. He had been planning this for many weeks, exercising all options to make sure he had a ticket so that he could attend in person. Sam texted me at 4:26 on May 3rd, right before he left, that he was leaving his house, completely unaware of what was to come less than 10 minutes later. I called him walking to my car after work, as I always did, and I knew something was immediately wrong. But by the second call, there was no answer. I kept calling and calling, still no answer. I looked online in my own, saw there was a very bad crash on Sam's route around the time he left. I was panicking, but hoping maybe he'd stop to help. So it was unfathomable something could have happened to him. I drove to DeKuiper's house, frightened and crying, but I need to know what was going on. We were all standing in his driveway. We saw the sheriff's cars turn down the street in our direction. I don't remember what happened after the sheriff informed us the driver of the doors had passed. But the trauma of these moments alone still keeps me up at night, constantly reliving it as the worst moments of my life. On that day, the sheriff made a reckless and deliberate decision. What confuses us is we don't see that there was wasn't forced into a dangerous driving maneuver. There was no inclement weather, animal crossing the road, medical emergency, or alcohol that caused him to swerve. It was a conscious decision that he made while driving. He caused one of the most violent and disturbing crashes this area has ever seen. The Kuipers and I were all sitting together at his house when the medical examiner called 4 or 5 days after the crash and said that they were still unable to identify Sam. Imagining Sam, in that state makes all of us sick. The funeral home said this was unheard of. There's no reason that Sam or any person should be brutally killed while doing absolutely nothing wrong. Schram's negligence to follow the most basic traffic laws cost Sam his life, leaving us to grieve a loss that will never heal. May 3rd changed all of our lives forever. There will never be a day that we are not grieving the loss of Sam. Navigating through my grief has been incredibly difficult. I struggled immensely at work, with severe brain fog. At home, even the simplest tasks seem impossible. I've lost my own sense of identity, and I live in a constant fear that if Sam was killed on a beautiful, clear day while doing nothing wrong, what could happen to the rest of my family? Sam and I had our whole lives played together. Last summer, I thought we were going to enter one of the most exciting times of our lives, getting engaged, planning our wedding. Instead, we endured the horrific process of planning his funeral, picking his casket, writing his obituary, and spending insurmountable time at the cemetery in desperate hope for some sort of peace. We visited the cemetery so much that for our first Christmas without Sam, the cemetery owner plowed us a path through the snow so we could get to him. Sam was the best human I've ever met. He was so kind to every person that he met. He worked harder than anyone I know. I would say that the people we have here today in support of Sam, they don't know him, he's a crazy or wild personality, but because he was respected by everyone he met, he was someone that was excited, genuinely excited to do the right thing. His smile was the most beautiful thing, and I miss his laugh every day. He laughed at all my jokes, even the bad ones. He was amazing with kids and was so excited to have his own one day. He loved watching and participating in sports. He loved to challenge himself with new things. He loved food. He loved my family just as my family loved him. He loved supporting my siblings in their athletic success. And he was so proud of them. He loved dogs. He loved the beach. I could go on forever. He and I were both old souls, and we just loved each other's company. People have asked me, my favorite memory of us is, I always say, May 2nd, 2024, the last night of his life. I'm simply folding his laundry, watching TikToks together, but I remember thinking that night how genuinely happy and excited I was for our future. I was and still am so proud of us, but I meant such a loss without him. No matter what the sentence is today, Sam's parents, his sister Cassidy, and his friends, myself will carry this grief for the rest of our lives. There's nothing that can bring Sam back, but I hope this will prevent another reckless decision that steals an innocent life. No family should have to endure what DeKuipers and myself are thinking.
So how does it
I'm Cassie Piper, Sam's older sister. First off, I want to say thank you to Sam for giving us the opportunity to speak today. This was one speech I was hoping I would never have to make. We are. I was told the question I had to answer for this day was, how is my life different because Sam is no longer here? What does it mean to me? Everyone has their one greatest fear. Mine came to reality May 3rd of 2024 when the police came by and said that Sam had passed away. I was on my way back to my parents' house, almost there. I had to pull over 3 separate times for ambulances to go by. Something just didn't feel right, but tried to brush it off. Standing in the driveway a little bit later with Samantha and my mom, we saw 2 cop cars drive by really slow, praying that they would keep going, which they did for a little bit, but then we saw them turn around and they pulled into our driveway. We were asked if we had a Ford Taurus at this address, which my mom proceeded to say yes, that our son drives it. Asking them if he was okay, if he was at the hospital, looking at the officer, knowing at the look on his face, and he paused. What he was about to say was going to be unbearable. The officer proceeded to say, "I'm sorry, but Sam has passed away." Samantha collapsed on the pavement. My mom fell over with the most god-awful scream. A scream that everyone prays not to hear, let alone do. The one that leaves you traumatized for the rest of your life. My body started shaking, anxiety started setting in, and picking up my mom to move to the backyard where it was more private. It was then when things really started sinking in and my body started shutting down. Every muscle in my body started tensing up and spasming so bad that it was getting to the point where I couldn't move. From then on, it was like this, my soul left my body, and I haven't really gotten it back. I lost my life and Sam lost his, just in a different way. I want to ask everyone in this room, in the overflow, and everyone watching online, who do you love the most? Are they still here? Sam was the person that I loved the most here on this earth. We were only 14 months apart, grew up side by side. He was my other half. We were with each other since he was born every day in some way, shape, or form, or talking in some way, shape, or form, up until the day he passed in one of the most tragic ways. 22 and a half years. We had a sibling bond that was 1 in a million. Ask anyone that knew us. Now he's dead because someone couldn't keep their cool for just 5 to 10 seconds more in order to pass someone. Sam would still be here. Instead, it cost the life of one and almost a few others, all of whom had serious injuries. I wanted to share the poem that was in Sam's memorial card that we had at Sam's service. When we were looking through all of them, this one stood out and felt as if it had come from Sam to us. Sit in heaven and watch you every day. I try to let you know of signs that never went away. I hear you when you're laughing and watch you as you sleep. I even place my arms around you to calm you as you weep. I see you wish the days away, begging to have me home. I try to send you signs to know that you're not alone. Don't feel guilty that you had life that was denied to me. Heaven is truly beautiful. Just you wait and see. So live your life, laugh again, enjoy yourself, be free. Then you'll know with every breath you take, you'll be taking one for me. Even as true as those words are, and nothing I could try will bring him back. Even though we are physically here, half of us, half of me is gone. Sam passed May 3rd. My birthday is May 31st. Going through birthdays without him here. Seeing and celebrating everyone around us. Celebrating another year of their life, which is great. But also makes it just as painful knowing that you were robbed of yours. Sam was robbed of his entire future. Mr. Schram, you got to marry the love of your life. You get to have children if you guys so choose. You get to try to be successful in whatever job you do to provide, as well as your wife. Sam now can't do any of those. Sam was planning on proposing and marrying Samantha, the love of his life. Can't do that anymore. Sam's future children were robbed of him. My nieces and nephews were each other's only sibling. I won't ever have any nieces and nephews now. And whenever I have kids, I will never hear their Uncle Sam. They will never have their Uncle Sam. They will never have cousins to run around and play with, to grow up with. Christmas, Thanksgiving, 4th of July, birthdays, family, or school functions, all robbed of memories and family because you took them away, Mr. Schram. Since Sam was killed, my anxiety has ramped back up. I hadn't had any episodes since my senior year in high school 7 years ago. And now I've had multiple, one really bad one that had scared my coworkers. I work in the medical field, so keep in mind how bad it must have been. There's a medical term called broken heart syndrome, also known as stress-induced cardiomyopathy, a temporary heart condition triggered by extreme emotional or physical stress. It can mimic a heart attack, causing similar symptoms. I know I've had multiple episodes of this, and I'm scared that they might get worse and lead to something more serious. A well-known friend of ours, Connie Dunaway, lost her husband in 2016. She ended up with broken heart syndrome, being rushed to the hospital and spent 3 days in a medically induced coma. The cardiologist wanted her heart to rest. This is a more serious case of it, but I'm scared of my smaller episodes to turn into a larger one like Connie's. Having to speak to a therapist for all the trauma, also having to realize this is just the start. It's going to take years to heal, but I don't think it'll ever fully heal. Yes, carrying on with day-to-day things, but half of my future is gone now too. I've lost a lot of family even before Sam passed. having the trauma, having in the back of my mind of losing Sam, which was my greatest fear. I would have done anything for him. I'd trade places with him in a heartbeat just so he could be here. With that fear being a reality now, is being terrified of losing my parents. Many of the college boys that were closest with Sam, losing family or family friends that I'm closest with. Mentally, never fully here, or fighting with everything in me to fighting to mentally be here. When what should be a simple task that was done every day now becomes 2 to 10 times as long. Depressed all the time. If anyone here has ever had it, well, it sucks. It robs you of fully living your life. Fighting to get through every second of the day, fighting to get out of bed in the morning, having flashbacks from everything all the time, from the day of the accident to everything following. I've heard enough details of the crash to get an image, and even have seen some pictures. I can physically feel my brother's lifeless body in my arms. I can picture his face right before he was killed. Never fully prepared for how traumatizing that is, how all of this is. We couldn't even have an open casket at his service. My family, Samantha's family, did get to see him before the boys wheeled out the casket of the sanctuary. He had a sheet over him, but we could still see him enough. He had a large bandage across his face, his left arm over his diaphragm, and his right arm by his side because he was so badly damaged. How could you expect to ever get closure on losing a loved one when you can't see them for the final time in a stadium room as their whole life? I don't know what all they found in the autopsy report, but I've seen Sam's car, and I know enough that with how long it took to get his body back because they couldn't identify him. His legs had to have been crushed, and there was the rest of his body damaged severely. I had a very vivid dream in the morning of the 1-year anniversary of the crash. I was standing in front of his open casket, looking at him, starting to cry, almost collapsing to the ground. Like, I can't do this without him, buddy. And I completely lost it and collapsed on the floor. Sam was my main support system, the main person I talked to. If I needed anything or needed an opinion on something, he was the one I would always go to. He was my emotional support, my other half. And now I'm lost wherever I go. I keep looking next to me, expecting you to be there, but to talk to you like I am, asking for your help or opinion on something, or just to look at you being happy that you were there. But you're not anymore, buddy. I keep waiting for you to come home after work or home from Samantha's. Looking down to the end of the hallway, waiting for you to come out of your room. Sam graduated from college in December of 2023 and moved home. I was at the time living in an apartment. I was excited for him to finally be home and finally be able to spend more time together. Early spring, I was thinking about moving home when the lease was up on our apartment, and was most excited for having some quality time with Sam. Finally being under the same roof, full time since before he went off to college, about 4 years prior. He was gone before I could even move home. We knew it made each other tick, but we also knew it made each other smile or feel better no matter how much we didn't want to. He never called me by my name. It was always sis or sister when we were younger. I won't ever get to hear that again. I won't ever get to see his amazing smile. I won't ever get to hug him again and feel his comforting touch. I won't ever get to hear him say, I love you, like the last time I heard it, Thursday night before he passed. I was and I'm still so proud of you, buddy. All you accomplished, you pushed yourself all the time, 110%, to be the best that you could be, to grow and get better in whatever it was. You had so much future ahead of you and the most amazing young woman to share it with. You were a silent leader, helping others to be their best, leading by example. Accountability, transparency, integrity, the list could go on. As Coach Lattiser would say, don't let the game define who you are, let the way you live your life do that. Which leads me to ask, how do you live your life in which you are defined by? Just want my brother back, my best friend. Found out later the song that you were listening to when you passed was I Can Only Imagine by Mercy Me. If you know, you know. If you have someone that you love or care about, let them know. Because you'll never know when the last time will be the last. Every day is a gift. And the pain is unbearable, it hurts. Absolute hell. I know I have Sam's best friend Kyle, fiance Samantha, and his closest buddies, teammates, roommates, Cam, Dom, Jason, Kent, Ethan, Brett, Jake, both Nicks, both Trents, both Zachs, Jeremy, Riley, Gracie, and the rest of the baseball team and their families, as well as many others, which means more than I could ever know. But they're not Sam. Coworkers are replaceable. Sam, my brother, is not. Kyle has spoken at Sam's service. Cassie, the amount of memories, stories and memories you've had with your buddy will forever live on. You two had a special brother-sister bond that everyone wishes for themselves. You knew him just as well as he knew himself. You were the sister surrounding him as things got tough. It hurt Sam to leave for college because he knew he'd be separated from you. But now he'll be wherever you go. Picking on you undeserved, as a brother always does. And picking you up when needed the most. I know I can never replace the bond you and Sam had, but I would like to be the brother that you need. The word choice is a double-edged sword. One side rewards for something good, and the other side for consequences for bad ones. There are laws for the road in place for a reason. It takes 5 years to become as good as the average driver. Mr. Schram was 26 when the crash happened. That gave him double the amount of time to be as good as the average driver and very well know the rules of the road. Crossing or passing on a double yellow is a felony. Driving on the opposite side of the road, going over the crest of the hill, is a felony. With the information I just mentioned, as well as in the police report, Mr. Schram was very well aware of what he was doing. It wasn't a lapse in judgment. He didn't have a heart attack while driving. No alcohol in his system. He was sound-minded when he decided to pass when and where he did. Part of me thinks it would have been better if he did have something in his system to know that this wasn't a choice that he made. But he chose to cross the line. You, Mr. Schram, were cognizant of your actions. This wasn't an accident, it was a crash. Mr. Schram violated the laws of the road using gross negligence, reckless driving, excessive speeding, etc., with the result of Sam's death, making it, in more serious terms, a vehicular manslaughter, involuntary manslaughter, vehicle homicide, though in Michigan, I believe they have a different name, reckless driving causing death. not only taking Sam's life, but also almost killing one of the other friends in his truck, as well as seriously injuring a few others. Reckless driving causing injury. Noel had told my parents one life was already ruined, why ruin another? No, a life was taken, thousands were ruined, leaving the one that killed Sam with the consequences to his action that he put on himself. All of this could have been avoided. Mr. Schram needs to be held accountable for his actions. As Noel also told my parents, he didn't mean to do it. Everything I have just said backs me up in my response to that about choices and consequences for making bad decisions. We are not, even close asking for him to do indefinite time, but he needs to have Sam's death on his record. Mr. Schram was the one that killed him. He was the one behind the wheel of the truck that day, not anyone else, him. Sam did not take his own life. He did not die of natural causes or of a natural disaster, hurricane, tornado, flood, etc. You killed my brother, Mr. Schram. You took his life. You were the one that killed him. Thank you.
I forgot my real name, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay, sir. I just need you to start with your name.
My name is Dennis DeKuiper. I'm Sam DeKuiper's father.
Thank you, sir. Go right.
I had it all written down to read, but there's no way I could read it. Last time we were here, the defense counsel had stated, in my mind, totally, that Mr. Schram just took his eyes off the road. And he said it 2 or 3 times. I seen the accident report. That is not the truth. People that were riding with him stated that he was mad because he just got passed by the car he was trying to pass. Another one states that he was going so fast that threw him back in his chair seat. Another one states that this is not good, this is not good, this is not good. He was passing a double yellow line over a line hill. Almost callous to the results that could have happened, which did happen. Though he wasn't hunting down any certain persons, that happened to be my son Sam. As my daughter stated, it was no medical emergency, constant decision. For some reason, he decided not to concede to this other car. He kept on his path, trying to pass. I don't know if this was a way of life for him, so it's just callous to it. This is living out some kind of callous to it because he's living out some kind of video game. I don't know. He knows. All I know is that the sheer terror that my son must have felt that second he come over the hill and had nothing he could do but die. This car, about 2.5 feet tall now. We live about 2 driveways from 633. Sam left, and a short time later, we saw emergency vehicles going to and from. And I remember saying so clearly, so many other times, I hate sirens. Nothing good ever comes of it. Not knowing that it was Sam that was killed, and all the other injuries. And that Sam was not even in one of the ambulances or the hospital. He never went. He was dead right there. They took him to have an autopsy. As my daughter was stating, all I see is when the sheriffs came and told us in the driveway what had happened. There was a fire, and seeing Samantha, my wife Linda, and Cassie crying and not being able to stand up, laying on the ground. This day I see that. Every night I go to sleep. I think of how the horror that must have gone through my son's mind. All because he was mad because somebody passed it. He wasn't even gonna see that car, he was trying to overcome. Santa graduated college with honors, graduated high school with honors. He always did his best. He always did examples of how to be by his examples. He graduated and his accident was approximately 5 months later. He started this new career as engineer. Seeing his face full of joy at graduation day. Doing a respect that he had already from his employment, going on to a career, so many hopes and dreams. Never see any of them fulfilled. Never having joy in your kids watching their joy. We always did things as a family. More. I had no joy in anything I do. I look forward to nothing. The only thing I can do for my son now is go to the cemetery, take care of his flowers. All because somebody was mad that somebody passed him. You know, the laws of the road are there to help protect us. If people don't care about that, and we don't. This is the kind of stuff that happens. Listened to earlier, the people are given bond. They have certain rules to follow by. If they don't follow by them, they're not holding to the justice system, taking on for that. And my understanding is from pictures I've seen, he didn't hold to his bond. And I talked about going for hikes, going fishing. We never been able to do that. We did some driving around, looking at small lakes, places together, spending time together, having around. Never again. Sam always gave me bear hugs every single day, 2, sometimes 3, to the point it was way too long. Now I so much miss those. Never again. I'll never be able to hear Sam say Dad. Some of the best one-word things I can ever recall. Dad. Never again. Because he was mad because somebody passed him. I care for the rules of the road. Every day I have tears for my son. Sometimes he's driving down the road. But every day I talk to him. I'm going to take care of his flowers. The only way this pain will ever go away is when I die. And this is something no parent should ever have to go through. My heart's shattered. My whole being is shattered. Because somebody was mad because somebody got past me. My God, I'm going to take him back. He wasn't going to concede. He was driving all the time, but this one hit home. Children Sam. This time, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Sarah, just
Paper.
Sammy's mother. Again, has been stated, no parent should ever have to go through what we're going through right now. It is the most devastating pain you can imagine losing a child. You carry them for 9 months, and you're with them when they're sick. You're home with them every day until they go into school. And then, as if that is not enough pain to deal with over the past year, you add in the added weight of your child being killed and the person who killed him not being held accountable for the crime he committed. Let me tell you, it adds a whole new dimension and level of pain. Pain so great that a guttural scream escapes from so deep in your soul that you don't recognize that it's coming from you. The screams of injustice come more frequently now in frustration for the lack of respect for human life by those who take the lives and by our justice system that no longer seems to protect the innocent lives that are lost. Life of your child who so deeply touched the lives of so many, now disrespected and swept under the rug. What do you say to the person who took your son's life? This has kept me awake a lot of nights, waking up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, thinking of that. I wonder, what were Sam's last thoughts as he saw your truck in his lane? Did you see terror or fear in his face before you hit him and drove over his vehicle? This crime took a quarter of our family. No longer do I get to see Sam's beautiful smile, hear his laughter, feel the embrace of his hugs, or feel his love in our everyday interactions with him. Sam and I worked for the same company, and anytime he came to the building I was in, which was quite often, he would always come and talk with me. He would come and sit with me when we had company lunches. Sometimes we would ride to work together. Can't even begin to imagine how much I miss all these interactions I used to have with my son. If I start to think of the fact that I don't know when I will get to see him again, I can't let my brain go there because the thought is so unbearable. I don't know if that time will come and will be tomorrow or 30 years from now. But it is devastating to think about. You know, Mr. Schram, you could have taken 2 or 3 lives that day, because Cassie and I both were talking about going with Sam to the graduation. But because of limited space for the graduation, there weren't any extra tickets for us to be able to go. I no longer used to have a smile like my son had. I no longer walk around with a smile on my face. I no longer see joy in my life. Just trying to get by the day-to-day activities. And now it's trying to trying to make sure his legacy doesn't die too. Nick, you got to ask your girlfriend to marry you. And I'm sure your parents got to celebrate and share in that joy with you. You see, Sam would have been proposing to Samantha in August or September of last year. He shared with me how he was planning to propose. Instead of him giving her an engagement ring, where he had planned to, he ended up giving Samantha a remembrance ring in remembrance of him instead. You stole that experience from us. We will never get to experience that joy with him. We will never get to see Sam's face as he watches Samantha walk down the aisle on their wedding day. No joys in all the wedding planning, stripped away. No mother-son dance. We do not get to see the joy and pride of him purchasing his first vehicle, buying their first house together, hearing his excitement as he talked of these things. Milestones in his life that he does not get to do and we do not get to experience with him. Watching as they would work on decorating their home together. We do not get to share in that excitement of them announcing a baby is on the way. No joy in seeing him hold his child or children in his arms. No watching him grow as a father. After Sam passed, in looking through some notebooks of his, came across his and Samantha's house that he had drawn up. This was their dream home that he had drawn, never to see the fruition of it. Now we only have pictures of that. Sister lost the only sibling she had. Her children will never know their amazing uncle, or have cousins from her side of the family to play with. All things you, Nick, got to or will have the opportunity to experience. We took all that away from our son Sam and from us, his family. I wonder, do your parents cry each day or cry themselves to sleep at night as we do? Because you are no longer there. Nick, there are so many days that I am so angry at you for what you took from us. But then there are days I feel sorry for you. Because you lack the morals to hold yourself responsible and accountable for your actions on May 3rd in 2024. Because you will never know peace unless you do that. We no longer have the opportunity or option of moving somewhere else to live. Our son is here now. This is where our family will stay. Since we had to purchase a plot for him at the cemetery, we then had to purchase ours. Because we will not be leaving our son Sam by himself. Our family will never be complete again. The impact of losing Sam is immeasurable. On May 3rd, 2024, when you decided to pass a vehicle crossing double yellow lines at the crest of a blind hill, you not only wiped out our son's life, but you devastated beyond imagination the lives of his family, thousands of lives in this community, and the Lawrence Tech families and community. Mr. Schram and his family may say this was an accident. We strongly disagree with that. An accident is defined as an unexpected happening causing loss or injury, which is not due to any fault or misconduct of the part of the person injured, but for which legal relief may be sought. What happened on May 3rd was the result of the reckless and careless actions of Mr. Schram. It wasn't a matter of him taking his eyes off the road, drifting into the oncoming lane of traffic, as he claimed in the final conference. He was deliberately passing another vehicle. According to the police report, a passenger in Schram's truck said that Nick was passed and was upset, frustrated, and was going to pass the car back. Additionally, a witness to the crash itself stated that there was a quick little jerk of that driver to the right side of the road, but it was too late and completely unavoidable. And by the time they recognized the truck was in their lane, there was hardly any time to react. Another person stated in the police report that he saw a truck whip out fast from behind the small black car in an attempt to pass it. And then the truck hit the tan car head on. Another passenger in Mr. Schram's truck, according to the police report, stated that he couldn't see the speed Nick was driving, but it set him back in the seat. This was not merely taking his eyes off the road. Another passenger in the truck stated that he was thinking it didn't seem like a good place to be passing. And it wasn't. This is Sam's car. Sam's mangled and burned body is in this vehicle. You tell me where my son is in this vehicle. This is what happened to my son. This is a picture of the front of my son's car. Going a slow speed is not and would not do damage like this. This is the passenger side. You can see how charred and burned my son's vehicle was. You can only imagine what it did to his body. Here is what his car looked like after they had to take the roof off in order to remove his body. That is his seat that you see there. That is where he was and where he was sitting, and you tell me what it did to him. You see, Sam's car tells a story all on its own. Sam's mangled and burned body is somewhere in there. The condition of Sam's body was so bad that they had a hard time identifying him. An EMT on the scene who had been in that profession for over 30 years stated it was the worst crash he had ever been a part of and witnessed. They were finally able to identify our son's body by his dental records. It took so long for them to identify him that we were worried he wouldn't be back in time for his visitation and funeral service. Again, this is not an accident. Nick did not blow a tire, causing him to go into oncoming lane of traffic. He did not have a medical emergency causing him to go into the oncoming lane of traffic. He, with nothing impairing his judgment, made the conscious choice to pass that car in a no passing zone at the crest of a blind hill, taking the innocent life of our son Sam. You could say he played Russian roulette with his car that day. He was playing chicken, and our son had no idea he was in his game. He had total disregard for the passengers in his truck and anyone else on the road that day. He had his mind set on passing that car at all costs. The hard part here is the police did their job in the investigation of this crash to help ensure that justice would be done for Sam, as they would have had if been anyone else. But in making this ridiculous plea deal, you make their job and time pointless, because all their hard work never sees the light of day. The public does not hear or see what really happened. You don't want bad publicity for public appearances as a tourist destination, I get that. But then you hold people accountable when they break the laws. You hold them accountable for their actions, and maybe it would stop. A car is a deadly weapon, no different than a gun, a knife, or anything else like that. If you take the life of an innocent person because of being reckless with a car, then you should get the same penalty as you would if you took an innocent life because of careless, reckless actions with a gun. It's no different. The person operating them makes them what is deadly. What happened on May 3rd would be considered a crash, which indicates that someone caused the car wreck to happen, or that someone is actually at fault. That would be Mr. Schram. You were the cause of the crash that claimed an innocent life with a deadly weapon, which was your vehicle that day. When the prosecuting attorney and her assistant went out to the crash site, she said instantly it was the felony charge of reckless driving without question. So she charged Mr. Nicholas Schram with 1 count reckless driving causing death, and 4 counts reckless driving causing serious impairment of a body function. All appropriate charges for Nick's actions and the results of that day. Then we get blindsided by the ridiculous plea deal she was going to offer to Nick. We expressed many times in many different ways our disappointment, our disagreement, and our disapproval of the plea deal that was offered to Nicholas Schram and the defense. It was said that nothing she could have or would have offered for a plea deal would have made us, Sam's family, friends, and community happy. That is simply not the case. Right from the beginning, we said we did not want any plea deals, but our words did not matter. We are not asking for a lot here. We are not asking for a life sentence or years and years and years of time. What we are asking for is for him to be accountable for Sam's death, the innocent life he took, which means Nick should be charged with the first count of reckless driving causing death. And then we said, leave the sentencing up to the judge, whatever that is, whatever that might be. But he needs to be accountable for our son's death because that is what happened. You want to make a plea deal, remove the 4 counts of reckless driving causing injury. But you leave the death charge in there because that is the most egregious part of this whole case. Nicholas Schram needs to have Sam's death on his record. Schram saying yes when asked the question if he caused the death of Sam DeKuiper because he was going into the other lane of traffic, taking his eyes off the road, is not holding him accountable for taking an innocent life that day. The definition for accountability is an obligation or willingness to accept responsibility or to account for one's actions. If Mr. Schram is not charged with the crime he committed on May 3rd, 2024, at approximately 4:30 p.m., causing the death of Sam DeKuiper by having the record show guilty next to the 1 count of reckless driving causing death, then this court will have failed Sam, his family, friends, this community, and a great number of people in Michigan and beyond, including Mr. Schram. To simply charge Nick with 2 counts reckless driving causing serious impairment of a body function does not account for Sam's death. How on earth can you remove the most serious part of this, which is the death that was caused? Sam is not an injury. He's not sitting in the courtroom here like Brennan Ralston, Nathan Costa, Jeffrey Draper, Domenico Bongiorno, the 4 that make up the 4 counts of reckless driving causing serious impairment of a body function, for which to God he was. And yet this is the only thing you want to hold Nicholas accountable for? How? How can you say this serves the people of the state of Michigan? Sam did not take his own life. He did not die of natural causes. His life was taken by Nicholas Schram when he made a deliberate, conscious decision to cross the double yellow lines at the crest of a blind hill. And if it does not show on his record that he was convicted of taking Sam's life, can you tell me what happened to my son? He is not here in this courtroom. He is not at work, and he is not at home. His room at home is definitely quiet, and his seat at the dinner table is painfully empty. Please tell me, Ms. Mulkenberg, in your honor, if you do not convict Mr. Schram for taking Sam's life, then where is my son? What happened to him? If you are saying that Nick is not responsible for taking Sam's life, then who is? Who is? When our society begins to fail to stand up and defend the innocent, we become a society with no heart, a society of chaos, and we fail the children of this world. We become a world with no morals, values, or standards. Our children become lost for lack of direction and discipline. You see, apparently, this isn't the first time Nick has driven recklessly. It's just the first time an innocent person lost their life because of his reckless driving. Someone stated on a media post, I know this person, an acquaintance, but well enough to know this way of driving was not an accident, it was a lifestyle. Everyone used to tell him, if you don't knock it off, you're going to kill yourself or someone else. And here we are. I hope he gets the maximum possible. He knew better and did it anyway. It was also brought to our attention that Nicholas Schram violated the rules of his bond. His bond stated he was not to go into any bar, restaurant, casino, or establishment that served alcohol by the glass. There are pictures that show him at a restaurant that has wine glasses on the table and a drink menu at the end of the table. They were apparently celebrating Nick's 27th birthday. Our son did not have the chance to celebrate his 23rd birthday. So forgive me if I seem indifferent to the fact that Nicholas should have been able to go and celebrate his birthday at a restaurant that served alcohol, whether he had anything to drink or not, doesn't matter. And then, of course, there was Nick standing up in Brendan Ralston's wedding. He was Schram's front seat passenger in the truck. Again, he was where alcohol was being served. Mr. Schram had committed a crime and was placed on bond. There was something that was going on to violate that. He should have had to back out of it. Samantha was supposed to be in a wedding too for a friend, but she had to back out of it because of the emotional and psychological pain she was going through from losing the man she had planned to marry and spend the rest of her life with. But really, let's not make Nick Schram suffer by making him miss his friend's wedding. Heaven forbid we wouldn't want to inconvenience him. He continues to live his life as nothing has changed other than the inconvenience of PT or surgeries at the moment. And he may have bouts of guilt. These are 2 times that it appears he violated his bond. Whether there are more, do not know. It seems as though he feels rules and laws may not apply to him or that he has to follow. God gives each of us free will to make our own choices, knowing that each choice we make has a consequence. Consequences that he should be held accountable for. We live in a world where everyone gets a trophy these days. Don't keep score and don't discipline because their feelings might get hurt. We think this is protecting our children in society, but really, we are hurting them more than we are helping them. Something else I would like to address with the court is a post that a family member of Mr. Schram's put on the page that we had created to keep people informed of what is going on in the case. It said, Matthew 6:14, for if you forgive other people when they sin against you, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if you do not forgive others their sin, your Father will not forgive your sins. Sam is a Christian and he is with the Lord. I know that Sam has forgiven Nick. Sam and Nick are brothers in Christ. If Sam can forgive Nick, why can't you all live like Sam and forgive Nick? Really? Seriously? There's a bit more to that, but this is what I'd like to share with Your Honor in the court. You want to bring Bible verses in on this? Well, how about these then? Genesis 9:5 and 6. And from each human being too, I will demand an accounting for the life of another human being. Whoever sheds human blood, by human shall their blood be shed. For in the image of God has God made mankind. To demand an accounting means that God will require each person to account for his or her actions. We cannot harm or kill another human being without answering to God. A penalty must be paid. Justice will be served. Or how about Matthew 12:36 and 37? But I tell you that everyone will have to give account of the day of judgment for every empty word they spoke. For by your words you will be acquitted, and by your words you will be condemned. They have no idea if we have forgiven Nick or anything about how we feel about Nick and his actions. If we forgive Nick, that is for us and us only to decide. Us forgiving Nick has nothing to do with him being held accountable for the innocent life he took here in this circuit court. Those are two totally different things. You want to talk about forgiveness? And here again, neither Nick or any family member made any attempt to say they were sorry for their loss, for our loss, for what we were suffering. He has not asked us for forgiveness for what he took from us, Samantha, the Schram, or this community. Not one word. Nothing showing any remorse for what he did. But apparently they feel we should say, we forgive you, Nick, and don't worry, you do not have to give up anything for the life you took. It is okay, you do not have to be responsible for your actions. Next, Sam and Nick are not brothers in Christ. Sam and Nick are nothing alike. Sorry, Nick. Sam would not have done something as careless and reckless as Nick did to put himself in the position Nick is in right now. But if Sam by chance would have taken the life of an innocent person, he would have done everything in his power to beg for the forgiveness of the grieving family. Then he would have stood up and said, I am guilty of taking this life and want to make atonement for it, whatever the law sees fit, in whatever time my punishment is for taking an innocent life. He would have pled guilty to the reckless driving causing death, if that is what he did. He would not have been a coward and not accepted his fate for his actions. So please don't ever compare me to Sam, because he doesn't come close to being the man Sam was by his actions. So, Your Honor, Nicholas Schram violated his bond, had total lack of respect for the grieving family in this court proceedings when he did not stand for the final conference to accept the plea deal in open court. When he could clearly stand for periods of time for the wedding he stood up in, and was even out on the dance floor standing back in November 24, 6 months ago. I do have pictures of those as well. And he never showed any remorse for taking Sam's life. To me, this shows an extreme lack of character, possibly. And we don't see Nick on a daily basis. As for us needing to live like Sam, you have no idea what that means or represents. We all need to try to live the live like Sam attitude. If Nick lived with this attitude, we might not be sitting here today. We ask, what is this attitude? If you are wise and understand God's ways, prove it by living an honorable life, doing good works with the humility that comes from wisdom, which is James 3:13. And also, don't be selfish. Don't try to impress others. Be humble, thinking of others as better than yourself. Don't look out only for your own interests, but take an interest in others too. Philippians 2:3-4. Both of these one came from a community member, and the other one came from a fellow teammate of his from Lawrence Tech. Your Honor, Nicholas Schram not only impacted our lives when he took the life of our son, but he took the life of a beloved member of this community, impacting it now and for the future. Here's a small glimpse of the impact Sam had on this community. You know what Sam taught me the most? Sam was one of the kindest people anyone could meet. I love to help those around me, but I learned from Sam that I am not good at reaching out After not seeing someone for a while, I allow my life to get in the way of missing out on continuing to help them. Another, everywhere he went, he was the happiest person, no matter the situation. His presence and smile changed the feeling in every room. He was someone that everyone could rely on, no matter the situation. He was a great leader and never let anyone feel alone. My wife has some connections to the Traverse City area and has come across many posts from people she knows on social media that exemplify what a great young man Sam was. She then turned to our 4-year-old son and said to him, "If you turn out to be like Sam, that would be great. Thank you for raising a son that other people can look up to and strive to be like, but he can't have that impact anymore." One of the truly greatest humans I've ever had the privilege to come across as a coach, teacher, and friend. Another, I've written so many condolence cards to Brenda that I end up throwing them away. I can't find words to adequately express what a profound loss the world felt the day that Sam passed. He was smart, humble, confident, and kind. He was the kind of friend who builds you up and doesn't tear you down. His life made a difference. Sam was truly an inspiration to myself and to all his peers. A pure soul and the embodiment of hard work, determination, kindness, and staying true to his values. Sam was the most kind and genuine person I have ever had the privilege of knowing. He was such a pure soul and such a positive human always. Not a mean bone in his body, and always did everything right. Your son made such a positive impact on everyone around him. If the world was made of people like Sam, I know we would live in a much better world. Having gained one of the best men I've ever known, I'm going to do my best to honor him and live life like Sam did. He set such a great example, one of love, positivity, kindness, and respect. And as he did on the field, so too will he forever guide me on. Those were words from the community. Another thing you took from not just this community, but from the world. Because of the work that Sam was doing, one of the projects he was working on before his life was taken was a project that will have life-changing effects for people in surgeries. Should be coming out in 2026. How many lives could Sam have saved or helped? But the things that he could have created and was planning to create to help save lives. And now he can no longer do that. Sam was not just our son. He was a child of this community. He was a source of light, unity, and inspiration in every aspect of his life. He was the heartbeat of every team he led. He embodied the qualities of the ideal brother, a wonderful son, and a remarkable human being whose presence and actions made the world a better place. His loss resonates within this community and throughout the state of Michigan and beyond. This is the person you robbed this community of. The impact of losing Sam when he had so much more to do and offer this community is something that is immeasurable. can't put a price tag on it. You can't put a time frame on it because of all the lives he could still have impacted. He was planning to help work with and coach some Little League baseball players. One of the 12-year-old requested to wear Sam's number 6 for the all-star team that he made last year to honor Sam. And he has the James 3:13 Bible verse on his screensaver on his phone. Just think about all the thousands of young lives Sam could have been a positive role model for. But all that gone because of the careless, reckless actions of Mr. Schram. The impact Sam's life and death had on this community showed when there were people that came from Utah, Arizona, California, South Carolina, Florida, Canada, to be here for his service. There were over 1,000 people at his memorial service. Another 600 to 700 that came for his visitation the night before. His procession from the church to the cemetery stretched for miles and miles and included a packed charter bus full of his loving teammates. There were 7 police cars, only 3 of which were on duty. The rest were there because it was for Sam. There were 2 fire stations that had their trucks with their lights on, blocking off intersections, and 2 conservation officers standing at attention with their hand over their heart. As Sam went by, all of that for a 22-year-old young man. I would say that is a pretty big impact on a community. As Mr. Schram does not live even close to this area, he has no reminders of the life he took from us in this community. He will never walk the halls that Sam did. He will not know of all the people who are doing amazing things to keep Sam's memory and legacy of his inspiring character and genuine kindness to all alive. He does not have to live with the effects of his choices that day because there is no one talking about Sam where he lives. There will be no conversations of a Sam DeKuiper youth football night. Or are you playing at the Sam DeKuiper Memorial Little League field? We, Sam's family and friends, and this community, however, do have to live with the consequences of Nicholas Schram's reckless actions on May 3rd. And that is why myself, my husband Dennis, Cassidy, Samantha, Lisa, Tom, Michael, Sarah, the LTU baseball team, their parents, the LTU staff, and the greater Grand Traverse community are asking for the appropriate justice to be served for our son here. The appropriate justice would be that Nicholas Schram be charged with 1 count of reckless driving causing death, because that is what happened. The sentencing is totally up to you, Your Honor, whatever that would look like. But he needs to be held accountable for our son's death, because he is the person who took his life. Thank you, Your Honor.
We'll do is take 5 minutes and start it.
That's what he said. You don't have time to go.
I don't know. I can turn it so you can.
Good. I'm trying to- I can feel it. remove it.
It works pretty good.
Oh, gosh, no.
All rise, please.
Thank you, James. Go back on the record, Mr. Schram's case, Ms. Munberg, any additional comments from people?
Your Honor, obviously, there's nothing that I can add now that you've heard from the friends and family of Sam DeKuiper. Their loss is absolutely incomprehensible. There's nothing more that I can say that would be more impactful than what you've heard from those who knew Sam best. I think everyone recognizes that the defendant didn't get in his vehicle that day with the intent to hurt anyone, but that doesn't erase responsibility. This tragic lapse of judgment altered the lives of so many people, especially the lives of the people in his vehicle, and most importantly, the friends and family of Sam DeKuiper. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, before the court for sentencing is Nicholas Schram, 27 years old, and well aware of why we're here this afternoon. And I spent so much time trying to figure out what to say. And the hard part is there is nothing appropriate to say. Quite frankly to you, Mr. Schram, quite frankly to you all. I'm so sorry for your loss. I think we all share in that for you. I think you mentioned the word, and I wasn't trying to be rude if I wrote down something while you were speaking. I try to do that to remind myself to talk about something. And we talked about legacy. I think that should be clear for folks who are here. And I do want to start with the ask that you made. The court does not determine the charges that are involved in the case. I don't have the ability to reinstate count 1, for example. I don't have the ability to reinstate count 4, count 5. That is beyond the control of the person who sits in the seat. And so I can't give you that. And the other part that is difficult in sentencing for cases like this, and I've used the word that they feel pointless at times, and I think that's a poor choice. It's a feeling of helplessness for me, because I can't give you, of course, what you all want, which is to bring Sam back. That is outside, certainly, the capability of the court. And so instead, the best the court can do is work within the system that we have to determine an appropriate sentence. And the other part that I always think of in cases like this is how few people, thankfully, are exposed to the criminal justice system. When we're talking about victim impact statements, we're talking about charges, maximum penalties, and guidelines. Probably certain that most of you who are sitting behind the bar, you had never heard of sentencing guidelines and had always assumed that whatever the maximum charge is for something, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, or 15 years, that's what people will get. But that's not the way that the system works. And I think that certainly there are ways that the criminal justice system can be improved. There's no question about that. And I think for those of us who work within it, we feel frustration. I don't know if day to day is fair, but week to week. I often give as an example, not related to a case like this, but if I were to give Ms. Mungenberg right now 49 grams of fentanyl, and there were no aggravating circumstances for that, my sentencing guidelines would probably be 0 to 6 months. And the default under the system that has been set up by the legislature would be for an intermediate sanction, which would call for not 1 day in jail. I have cases every Friday on our criminal days where people are sentenced for operating while intoxicated as a third or subsequent offense, which is a felony. And I've had people who are being sentenced on their 5th, their 6th drunk driving offense. And their guidelines, generally speaking, end up being 0 to 9 months, 0 to 11 months, somewhere around there. And that's for somebody who got in the car drunk and then drove. And the default again for those sentences under the system that is currently in place, as set by the legislature, is an intermediate sanction, meaning other than the 30 days that is required by the OWI 3rd statute, it's been determined that it's not appropriate for a person like that to spend one more day in jail, perhaps. We need to focus on rehabilitation. And the court is a big believer in rehabilitation, of course, but I think that we have lost sight in some of the reforms that have come about in taking away holding people accountable. I don't say that because that's Mr. Schram's fault. I don't say that because the fact that I get frustrated at times in those situations, that certainly doesn't impact your sentence, sir. I just offer them as general comments because, again, I don't think that a lot of the folks who come in this room, thankfully, have much exposure to the criminal justice system. And one of the examples of that, I think, and Mr. Eldridge used the word that I would use, he used the word crash. Out in what I call the normal world, the non-legal world, we refer to it as a car accident. We don't in the legal world because it's not a car accident. It's not as though a tire blew out, as the example given, or something along those lines. We know what caused the crash, and so we use that phrase, a crash, and that's what. And it's certainly clear that toward the effects of this on everybody. Certainly the DeKuiper family, Sam's friends, his would-have-been fiance, all of the folks in his life, beyond the people speaking here, right? I mean, just for the folks coming, it's clear the impact he had. And again, I hope that at some point, certainly that can provide some comfort to his family, knowing how many people he touched. And I don't know how many lives he would have been able to touch in the future, but certainly I think that his legacy and the impact his death has had on the folks who felt it will ensure that they continue to make better decisions because he was in their life. And the best word that I could come up with after weeks spent walking around this building and walking around my house in the early hours is just tragedy. I mean, all around. And that's not to take away from the injuries suffered by Mr. Schram and the people who've been in his car. That's not to take away from the impact that this case has had on his friends and family as well. That doesn't lessen the impact on folks here from Mr. DeKuiper, and obviously vice versa is true as well. Also in mindful of one of the things that I wrote, regardless of what the sentence were the court imposed, there will likely be a large group of people who think it was too harsh, and there might be a large group of people who think it's too lenient. But what I can tell you is that the sentence will be the one that the court believes is appropriate under the eyes of the law. And as I mentioned, not an accident, it's a crash. And we know what caused it. And I wrote down quotes for one of the letters that was written on behalf of Mr. Schram, and it said that no one knows in this case, and that is certainly true. But it's not about the sentiment that meant there, because no matter what sentence the court imposes, again, I can't bring Mr. DeKuiper back. But it's about determining what the appropriate sentence is to hold Mr. Schram accountable. And one of the other things that I often talk about, that I don't think, again, normal people know, is the court is the one that knows the least about a case. For example, it was asked in a letter that I received about the plea, it said essentially what Mr. Schram stated as the facts of the case were not accurate, and why didn't the court correct that? Because the writer of the letter believes that, of course, I had reviewed the accident report or was familiar with the facts of the case, and I'm not. The first time that I read in depth about a case like this when there's a plea is in the pre-sentence investigation. And the system is designed that way to ensure that the court, if somebody chose, could be the neutral decision maker that decides whether or not they are guilty or not guilty of a particular offense. And so that's always the interesting part, so to speak, of being the least informed being asked to make decisions, motions, whatever it may be. And in reading about what happened, I understand what is being offered in terms of the statements, and reviewed some recent statements that were filed as well from the folks that were in the car. And then reviewing the pre-sentence investigation and narrative of the event for where it describes what happened in the case. And we did a fantastic job drafting a very difficult report. Certainly it analyzes presumably the police reports that were filed in the case, the documentation that was part of it as well. To read about the events themselves is horrific, quite frankly, even for folks like ourselves who deal with the justice system every day. There are cases that are difficult to look at, so to speak, as a whole. Certainly this is one of those. The few parts that I highlighted that would I think would challenge one of the narratives that's been presented. There was an individual who was interviewed who was part of the party at the paintball course. And he noted in one of his statements that Mr. Schram's vehicle had gotten way ahead of the other. And then there is portions in here of interviews from various individuals where the language about them being pushed back into the seat is in there. And the portion where one of the individuals in the vehicle had a bad feeling about the passing of that other vehicle and advised that the blind spot at the hill kept getting deeper and deeper, and the next thing he saw was the car before hitting. And leads me back to a comment that was made, Mr. Schram, and say you don't happen to why you couldn't see the vehicle. It's because there was a blind spot. That's on County Road 633. There are plenty of them. For any folks, obviously, from here, driving through portions of Grand Traverse County and especially portions of Leelanau County, it always surprises me. Some of the passing zones, I don't know, quite frankly, especially in Leelanau, some of the twists and turns. I don't know how anybody could complete a pass, quite frankly, in some of those passing zones. And so many turns and those kinds of things. I don't know if it's because of the job or just why I drive that way. But driving like a grandparent as you get older, I think, just sort of comes with. So I think some of those facts that are included in the case certainly do challenge a little bit of what was presented. One thing that is clear certainly is that there was no alcohol in the case. There was no use of controlled substances. It was a reckless driving causing death as to count one, and then reckless driving causing serious injury for the four individuals who were within Mr. Schram's vehicle. And the comment, again, in the victim impact statement, the written document, as well as commentary from Mrs. DeKuiper, includes some of that language in from Mr. DeKuiper as well about some of the information that was available in the police reports. And again, I've taken their word for that writing. I obviously don't get to review those as part of these types of cases. In analyzing a sentence and what it's supposed to be, that's difficult enough in determining a possession case, let alone something like this. But there are parameters that are put in place. Of course, the guidelines that we talked about ended up at 12 to 24 months, which is the range based on the decision making of the court. And so the proportionate sentence, if the court determines that those guidelines are proportionate, would be a minimum sentence within that window. And then sometimes I get the question of, and I'm not saying I got a letter in this case about it, but sometimes in these types of files, why can't you serve 10 years? Well, state of Michigan laws don't work like that either. In Michigan, generally sentencing is concurrent, which would mean you're just looking at 5 years. And then even still, some folks may wonder, why can't you serve 5 years? Well, I guess theoretically you could. But again, we're focused on that minimum window, which is between 12 and 24 months. That's the range that the court has to work with. And in looking at sentencing, the case law tells us that we're to use 4 pillars. Rehabilitation is one, deterrence is another, punishment, and then public safety. Generally speaking, I make the comment often in sentencing that deterrence usually is not at play. Right? If for a possession case, for example, somebody suffering through addiction, if I have to sentence them partially so that somebody else doesn't experience that type of burden, I don't think that's really at play. Charges like this are a unique circumstance where that pillar actually is in place. Because part of this process can be sort of determining what is the appropriate sentence in hopes that obviously will deter conduct of other individuals. There is the punishment aspect to that as well. And sentencing is as to 5 years, reckless driving, causing serious impairment of the body function. But again, the factual basis did include testimony relative to the death of Mr. DeKuiper. So the court is of the understanding and does consider that in determining the appropriate sentence. Obviously, in terms of public safety, cases like this are the epitome of public safety cases. These types of charges are put in place for instances like this where it's not alcohol, where it's not drugs, where it's not easy is the wrong word, but easier to identify the underlying cause. It sort of acts as a catch-all for that behavior. In determining the appropriate sentence as well, Mr. Schram, I did consider the letters, obviously, that are submitted on your behalf, because the other part of this case, too, is your life has been obviously impacted, likely forever, due to physical injury, the lives of your family as well. That part certainly is considered by the court, but the focus, at least for me, in determining the appropriate sentence in your case, is to focus on both the punishment aspect, the public safety aspect, as well as a little bit of deterrence. Certainly still take to heart that if I have to sentence you partially to stop somebody else from doing this, I often say I think we have bigger problems, and I think that's true, but I think in the very nature of this case, certainly that is part of this, though, to a lesser extent. And so the court would indicate that the guidelines, again, that we ended up with are 12 to 24 months. We do find those guidelines to be proportionate based on the facts and circumstances of the charge that you pled to. The court was further ruling SFOB 3, Mr. DeKuiper's death, which you testified to, is incorporated in that. And so again, the court does view that as something that it can consider. And just given the magnitude of the case, quite frankly, the results of it, the lasting impact that was felt by the family, as well as an appropriate punishment aspect, the court does believe that the top end of the guideline sentence is appropriate. And so as such, we'll sentence you to the Michigan Department of Corrections as to count 1 for not less than 24 months, not more than 60 months, as to count 2 for not less than 24 months, or excuse me, not less than 24 months, not more than 60 months. Again, that sentence will be concurrent. Additionally, you do have 1 day of jail credit, and that will be applied against the sentence that the court just imposed. The court will waive fines, the court will waive court costs, excuse me. And also, Mr. Muad was retained, so there are no attorney's fees. The state mandatory costs still must be ordered by the court. That's $68 for each of the counts. And as to the crime victims fund, that will be one accounting of $130, given that it is a felony case. As to restitution, I saw that there were receipts provided. There were some items that, at least on an initial review, I don't know that they qualify under the statute. Would the parties prefer to set the restitution hearing out so that that can be examined later?
Yes, Your Honor, we're asking for at least 30 days so that we can attempt to work that out.
The court will set a restitution hearing out at least 60 days to give the parties time to review all of the information. Certainly receipts were provided, and I think some of those would qualify under the Victims' Rights Act, but there are very specific provisions, either fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how it's viewed, that apply in a case. And so we will set that up. That likely would be able to resume given the sentence of the court. If that needs to be changed later, the court certainly will work with the parties to do that. Ms. Munkenberg, any questions about the sentence for the people?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Watt, any questions for you?
No, I'm
Okay. Deputy, could you please hand?
I can grab.
Given that you do have the right to appeal your conviction and sentence, sir, as to both of these counts, you have the right to attorney and help you accomplish that. If you think you can qualify to request a court-appointed attorney to help you with an appeal, you can complete that paperwork and return it to the court office within 6 months, and your request will be considered. So what you've just done is signed the acknowledgement of the appellate rights. Mr. Muad then will take the top 2 copies, and eventually those will be returned to the clerk. You'll get the bottom 2, sir. If you want to pursue the appeal and request a court-appointed attorney, that is the paperwork that you would need to complete and return to the court office within 6 months. Do you understand the timeline and the procedure? Okay, thanks. As well, for everybody in the courtroom, obviously, given the medical limitations, he will be escorted next door. Everybody will remain in the courtroom. Everybody who is in courtroom 2 will remain in the courtroom until he is securely within that facility. Once the deputies give me the all clear, because I will stay in this room, everybody will be allowed, the defense supporters will be allowed to leave first, and then anyone else may leave shortly thereafter. There are a lot of people in the courthouse right now, and so please bear with us as we try to navigate excusing people from the courtroom. The other part of this is the building is open to the public until 5. I welcome anybody to remain in the building that would like to until that time, but unfortunately security will at that point have to leave. It's the end of their shift for the day, and so we will have to start asking folks at 5 o'clock to leave the building. You are more than welcome to remain on the outside of the building or talk to anybody that you wish. Okay, deputies, go right ahead. And then again, everybody in the building is doing your seats.
He just had surgery a week ago. He's got 80 staples down the side of him right now. He's risk of infection as well. Please make sure that he doesn't get infected. He just had surgery a week ago. I know, they don't know about anything.
What are you all going to go in a conference room? Or you have-
If that's okay with the court, we can do that. Yes, sir, that's fine.
Okay, if you all would like to go in a conference room, that's perfect.
We're gonna, okay.
Yep.
Everybody, we can go over here.
Over here, so did it bother you? So maybe I should order a couple more. I mean, they were cool.
Judge Hayes and
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your cooperation, and for the folks that are in courtroom 2, everybody is free to exit as they choose. Again, the building will be open to the public for approximately 25 more minutes. Take as much time as you would like in the courthouse. After that, though, I do apologize in advance, but we will have to ask you to leave the building beginning at that time. Again, you're free to remain outside the building and stand by. Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you very much for being here. Ma'am, I apologize. The rules for ex parte communication still apply.
Is there another time where I might be able to ask you a question?
It is a procedural question,
Um,
or is it about the case itself?
yes,
So
I guess kind of
and
both, maybe?
I apologize. There are just very strict rules about when and where I can talk to you about things.
right,
The easiest mechanism, quite frankly, if you had a question or wanted to tell me something, would be to put it in
it's a question.
to put it in a letter. Because what has to happen is I just have to provide a copy to both attorneys. I'm not saying I can't respond. It's just
Right.
we have to provide an opportunity for them to review it. So
And
that's
that- Okay, so I just send it directly to
you
you?
can drop it off at the administrator's office, and then they'll let me see it, and then we'll provide a copy to the attorneys. But I'll be more than happy to respond to your question.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you. Oh, Brant, we've concluded the hearing, so I'll go ahead and log this one out, but you can shut down the meeting. So thank you very much.